everyone, this is your OG, Original Gamer, and this is another Godforge video. Today we'll be providing reaction and commentary to the latest episode of Fateless's weekly podcast. We will give you the quick, fast, and in a hurry version in case you do not have the time to catch the whole episode. You don't want to miss this, as Dirk and Sham and Chosen invite BrantheBroke, a fellow content creator and lore lover, to share his unique experiences in creating and funding board games, being a journalist for esports, which is professional gaming, and what he plans to cover on his channel as the Godforge launch gets closer. So, without further ado, let's keep it quick. Let's optimize. So, here we are with another week of the podcast. Chosen is leading it. He has Sham and Dirk, as well as BrantheBroke. So, Bran is a fellow content creator, good friend. We work together on the Discord server all the time. Love his videos, his lore. He has such an interesting and engaging way of sharing lore and sort of that mythology and the history behind why something. He's a great Easter egg hunter, someone who can like look at. He's one of the first folks that started looking at the reliquary room symbols and doing deep dives on that. So someone that I know I look to as a content creator for guidance on those lore pieces and how to interpret them. He's just really good at that naturally. You can tell he's had years of experience with all sorts of different games, and he's going to get into that throughout the course of this. So he starts out talking about his history in board games and getting board games built and funded using Kickstarter and some folks that he's worked with and met and partnered with to create games. Cool tie-in here. I know we talked in an earlier video about party modes for Godforge and how interesting and cool that would be, and to be able to like have a private lobby where you could have your 8 friends over, and everyone has a team, or everyone has the best of 7, and you play round robin style, and it could be a really fun party style game. So that leaks back into that and the discussion they're going through here, and just being able to do that. It also leaks into, Bran talks a bit about sort of working from home. Like I said, funding projects, working from home, and graphic design, and just the challenges and the benefits of it, as his wife is the working spouse, and he's the stay-at-home father who's also a student going to school, and does content creation, so that fits very well with his schedule and his lifestyle. So very interesting take on that for someone like your OG who also works from home. I can definitely tell you there's challenges and benefits to it. You can definitely control your timeline and your schedule much better, but at the same time it can be difficult. There might be nobody there pushing you to do anything if you don't want to. So we will continue to skip ahead. He talks about how he found Godforge and has been really, focused on it as it gets closer. They talk a little bit about how board game sales are difficult to generate on their own, sort of from zero, and how it's better to have an established game community than you then put out a board game that they eat up. Chosen makes a good point on that. Sort of the right go-to-market strategy on that. So he talks about market challenges, AI, how quickly AI could basically, Sham was like on video, like recognizing just how much AI could possibly do in the process in terms of supply chain optimization, research, and that sort of thing. And I think he started, it seems the more I see of Sham, he is the sort of business mind behind Fateless that understands and is thinking through all the processes and steps that go into it. And as he was doing it, there wasn't too many steps I think he hit that he didn't feel AI could probably be of a benefit to, and that's both scary, but I also think anyone that works with AI enough knows that it needs your guidance and guardrails, and like you need to handhold it a bit. It doesn't just get there on its own and deliver a high quality product. I would say it delivers a product every time, but to say it's high quality would not be fair. And so that's why AI is not just taken off and run and done this, is because there's still very real limitations to what it can do, but when understood as a tool, it can be implemented all throughout your processes, almost like speed boosters throughout your pipeline. And so that's kind of how to think of it versus, taking over and running everything, at least at this stage. So they continue on. Basically, it gets to... he talks about his perspective on games, the hardest Godforge system to balance. So they ask Bran if he has any questions. I think this was an awesome question. Real kudos to Bran for this one. He prefaced with them too, making sure they all had like dev input to the game and like could actually influence this, and said, what is the hardest system in the game thus far for you to balance? What has been the biggest struggle? And you see Dirk smile there because he's been wrestling with the fine-tuning of something. And so Dirk gives a great answer here. He talks about balancing strength and making it fun versus just being broken and having no counter to it, having infinite combos, having nothing that can kind of stop it, and having it truly be broken. So they're looking at those things and trying to dial up or increase the counters to their strength and those fun elements to make sure that there's adequate counters to balance those strengths, and it's not boring or one tone where you can just go scene by scene crushing everything with your strong move once you have it set up. They need to make it more dynamic than that, he says. So he also credits Paul and using simulations to project the game model, and changes that, how it will impact that. So I think Dirk talks about how like a lot of their initial assumptions they're finding are very kind of close to correct. So Dirk's character in the game is going to need to have high base accuracy for anyone who's developing that, because I've already put out the idea that every one of these guys should all have your own character in the game at some point, whether it be hidden and you have to unlock it, but Dirk should have high accuracy. That's what I'm saying, because he seems to be landing pretty close with the assumptions, and that's good because it's only going to improve the timeline. Dirk, are you with Asgard? Because he mentions he has the #1 Odin in the game. For now. But at least he knows best, right? Go Asgard. So which faction do you align with? Which one interests you the most? Which one do you know the least about? Leave your thoughts. Be sure to we'll try to answer any of your questions, or we'll provide deep dives on any of the topics you care most about. So what this gets into is Dirk makes a very powerful distinction at this point in the video. And he explains how Ultimates, which is basically a modification of the A3 you would expect in Raid, took the A3 out of the speed system, which was everything was based on speed and how fast you got to your turn, right? By creating Ultimates and having a divinity system, you've created a parallel timeline outside of the speed system of the game, which allows you to cut in as soon as your ultimate is ready. So it gives you a way to always counter the speed if you can't match the highest speeds in the game. Then you can always choose to build ultimates that can counter that speed and cut in anyways. So I think that's a really interesting sort of large scale fork in the road, is you can go speed still. I still think that's going to be a very key piece, but you're going to also have to consider the other half of that balance, which is the ultimate system, which now is a parallel timeline that you have to consider. Very interesting how Dirk sort of broke that out and talked about it. So initial divinity stock has just jumped up very high all of a sudden. The market's just moved on that one as that meta shift. So we will definitely see speed still be important, but will it be relegated to that like forward prepping of the battlefield, as we mentioned in a previous video where I talked about the setup for an invincible Alpha Tower team? It actually seems to align better with that idea of just thinking of your speed champion as that prepping of the battlefield, debuffing, turn meter, anything that fixes the enemy in place, gets out there ahead, fixes the enemy in place, and that is your use for speed. But it may not be that every single team member needs the highest speed if they're playing to use their ultimate and max their divinity out. So then their initial divinity is going to be more important, and then the gain at which the gain rate at which they gain their divinity will be important in terms of how we build them out, gearing and stat wise. All right, so I mentioned that in a previous video. Go check some of my previous videos if you want to fully max out your game IQ, because there's a lot dumped into each video. Brand then goes on to talk about esports and competitive play and how he was a journalist. He covered Smite from high res, and he loves looking at like the theory crafting of players themselves, not just the accounts or the champions. So he is just saying he is going to be including that on his channel as a focus, and basically all that he hopes for is that there will be normalized content battles available between content creators that could be easily shared, which would make esports possible if that's the direction gamers end up taking it. It won't happen right away. All of the founders and folks here on the call agreed. Chosen shared a great example of how it can be done well, and how Raid really kind of missed the boat hard on doing this with their very active content creation community. And so it doesn't look like Fateless is going to miss the boat on this one. It looks like they're absolutely going to be ensuring that these sorts of pieces are in the game. Probably the main global launch, I think, is safe to say. I don't think we're going to be seeing any of this in the Alpha Tower per se, but good to know for later. He then shares some the god or myth or legend that he wants. I am not familiar with any of the ones he shared, so I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say you got to go check the video. I'm not even going to leak it for you. You got to go check the video if you want to know, because one, I don't know them, so I can offer almost nothing, and two, that'll be a great way for you to at least go check out the final comments and listen to sort of the wrap of this video. That is a great way to end. But anyways, this is your OG. I hope that you enjoyed this quick little look at the podcast, and remember, play smarter.